Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing for Designers podcast. I'm your host, Masha Coyne, a messaging strategist and a copywriter for the interior design industry. I've been marketing for what feels like forever in my past career at some of the biggest global firms like KPMG and Deloitte. Today, I write website copy for designers using my signature voice of customer framework. If you're a designer looking to up your marketing game and attract premium clients, this podcast is for you. Each week on the show, we're going to be talking all things marketing, from branding to messaging to social media, SEO, and so much more, so you can have all the tools you need to grow your business and attract your dream clients. Hey there, welcome back to Marketing for Designers podcast. It's just me today, so no other guests. It's just you and I. And today we're talking about AI and how you can use AI for marketing your interior design business. I'll be sharing how I use it in my own copywriting business and how I work with clients in writing their website copy and just ideation. But I'm hoping that you will find it interesting and you'll borrow some of the ways that I use AI to help me streamline my marketing and just my business in general. And I'm sharing 16 tips that I use AI. I get it. I get that the whole AI thing might not be for you. Maybe it's making you kind of nervous, not really sure if it's your thing or if you can even use it for your business. But trust me, stick with me and you'll see some of the really, really great ways that I use it. And so you can too for your interior design business. So why don't we jump right into it? The very first way. So number one, the way I use it, specifically ChatGPT, and full disclosure, I have a paid version of the ChatGPT, and I think it's worth 20 or 25. I can't remember how much it is. $20 a month version from 3.5 to 4. The way I use it is I run a focus group or focus groups to better understand the mindset of my ideal customers, or if I'm working on a client project, I'm using it to better understand the mindset of their ideal customers. So here's how it's done. I basically create these personas, these avatars, the clients of my clients. So let's say the first person is John, and he's a business owner and he is semi-retired and he, takes a number of vacations and he's got multiple homes around the world and he's got a jet. So you get the idea. I'm basically creating this person and I'm giving him as much description as I possibly can. That I'm creating another person and another person. And here I've got, 3 to 4 people, kind of like having a round table that I'm running a focus group of a round table in ChatGPT in the AI tool. And once I've created these personas and have given them enough information to make it sound very real, I then prompt them with questions and I go around the table and get each person to respond to my question. So the reason why I don't just create this one person and prompt him with questions is because typically when I work with interior design clients, they don't just have one ideal audience. Like, for example, when I ask them, who is your ideal client, they describe a couple of different groups. If you're an interior designer, maybe you work with, family people, or maybe you work with older people and their kids are grown up. So there's typically different types of audience. So that's why I create, 3 to 4 of these people and kind of sit them around the virtual table and ask them questions. And I honestly can ask them anything. I ask them, how do you like to vacation? What's important to you in a home? How do you like to spend your free time? What's important to you when you're hiring an interior designer? How do you hire an interior designer? Do you do you dip into your network and ask people around, some trusted sources of information? What do you look for in a designer? And, how does a well-designed home makes you feel? And then I asked a bunch of follow-up questions because my goal is really to understand, how do they think? What drives their decisions? How do they decide things? What do they feel? What's their fears? What are some of their hesitations and objections? So you see this, running this focus groups, it really helps you better understand the audience that you're working with. So that's number one. Let's jump to number two. Number two, the second way I use AI is I analyze research data and raw interview data. So for client projects, as I said, I write website copy for my clients. And for every project, I interview 3 to 5 of their clients. So that means, you know, at the end of the interviews, I have transcripts with interviews from these conversations. And I analyze them and kind of try to understand, are there patterns? Are there some of the common threads that I find? Because if I find a common thread, if I find a pattern in something each of the respondents said, that means a lot more people probably think those same things or have those same pain points. So, how to use ChatGPT or another AI tool is drop those transcripts, those conversations, and analyze it. Help it, you could use it in your own business if you have email questions that interior design clients typically email you. And if you've got a whole collection of them, you can you can put them all into one document, then feed it into ChatGPT and see, hey, what are the most frequent questions that clients ask me? Chances are if one or two or three people ask the same questions, chances are those questions are on the minds of other people or similar type of client that you want to attract. So that's another way to use ChatGPT. The third way is coming up with a hook for a story. So oftentimes, if I'm drafting a social media post or writing an email to my subscribers, I want that first line, that introductory paragraph to be so compelling, so irresistible that the person reading that would want to read it more, would want to scroll down. So oftentimes I tweak that line again and again and again until it like grabs my attention, commands attention and makes me want to read it until it sounds very engaging. So I often get AI to help with that. The next way in which I use AI is ideation. And I'm sure some of you have used AI in that way too. It's for topic research, for a blog, or for my weekly newsletter. So, for example, I would give AI a little bit of information about my audience, what the company does, or if I'm writing about a client or a client project, I would feed AI information about that client, what they do, what kind of services they have, things to avoid saying, things that they've already discussed. So, for example, if I'm trying to come up with let's say 10 blog topics for their blog, I would make sure to say things like, okay, so this company has already addressed these questions. We've already blogged about these topics. So come up with some new topics, and it has to tie to what they do. And then I continue to iterate because I want to get to a point where the topic ideas are really engaging, really interesting, something that we haven't discussed in the past, and something that in sync with the services that they offer. So ideation, like topic research for blog and weekly newsletters. Okay, number 5, one of my favorite ways to use AI is to name things. That's as simple as that. I think naming things is such an art form because when you name things, whether it's service offers or your process or a new service that you're creating for your company, the name has to be short enough and engaging and interesting, but at the same time clear. So I think it's a very difficult thing to do. I think there's actually like a job title out there for a person who names things. But I've used AI to help me name things. And when I created my signature framework called Reveal, so I have a signature framework that I use for interior designers when I write their website copy. It's a 6-step process that goes through, research and discovery to extracting key messages, to voice of customer data, which is client interviews, to competitive analysis, architecture of content. So I created this framework, and it's called Reveal. It must have taken me like 100 different names before I actually came up with the word reveal. And I finally landed on that because when you're also dealing with the acronym, like when the letters stand for something else, that's even more difficult because you want it to make sense. You don't want it to be the name like out of left field. So if you are adding a new service to your interior design business, or if you want to give like your signature process a really cool name, try experimenting with AI to try to find a really cool name that really communicates the essence of your business or of what you do. So I'll give you an example. I've actually used ChatGPT a couple of years ago for a project that I was writing website copy for this kitchen designer in New York. And she's a kitchen designer. So I really wanted to come up with something clever and creative for her, for the 3 steps in her process. So she had a 3-step process, and the first one was like discovery and talking to the client and really trying to understand how they like to be in their kitchen, how to, what do they need, what are their needs. What we landed on for her website copy for her process is the 3 steps. And the titles for each of the steps was Let's Dish, Cooking Up Function, and Serving Up Perfection. How cool is that? I was just so proud of these 3 titles for her process, because not only it was so on brand for her because she's a kitchen designer and it was clever and fun. It kind of showcased her personality, that she doesn't really take herself that serious, but it also was very much aligned with what she did. So very cool. I really, really suggest you give AI a try when you have something to name, whether it's a service or a process or just something for your business and even outside of your business. Okay, so we've covered number 5. Number 6 is I use AI when I need to tweak voice in the voice that I write. So every client that I write for has a very specific voice. And it's important that I capture that voice accurately, because the whole idea of hiring a copywriter is that your messaging actually sounds like you, that it sounds on brand with you. So sometimes when I'm working with maybe like a higher end designer and I truly need to capture that voice, and they've got this refined, elevated voice, sometimes I would use AI to tweak things. And I would say something like, take this paragraph that I've written and tweak it, say the same thing in the voice of Elle Decor or House Beautiful or Architectural Digest. I don't know about you, but when I read those magazines and read those articles and how they describe their interiors, it's so elevated. It's so sophisticated. You just can't help it but be, like inspired and impressed. So sometimes if I'm writing like a project description or something where I need just a bit of a different voice, I would go to ChatGPT. And you can do all kinds of things. You can make your prompt for AI to be something like, say it in the voice of, like, experiment and play with that. Say things like, say it in the voice of Gary Vee, or say it in the voice of Mel Robbins or some other celebrity or influencer or even actor, like say it in the voice of George Clooney or Matthew McConaughey. Oh my God, I can never pronounce his name, but you know what I mean? And you will be so amazed the things that AI spits back out. The results are really amazing. And I'm not saying you use it then verbatim, but you get the point, and you try to understand in which way your voice can be tweaked to really align with whatever goal you're trying to achieve, or you obviously have your own distinct voice, but sometimes you just need to tweak it to really say it so it's received in the way that you want it to be received. Okay. Number 7, rewriting something from the audience perspective. So this is actually one of the more frequent things that I see on people's, specifically interior design websites. When you get to their website and it's all about me, 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 me. And I get it. This is your website. It's all about you. It's all about your business. It's all about your service. It's all about how you work. But your website should be more about your audience than it is about you. Because the goal of your website messaging is that so your audience feels seen, heard, and understood, and they can't possibly feel that way when they get to the website and all you're doing is talking about you. So you want to make sure that your website messaging speaks to your audience. So literally using words like you and your instead of we. And one way AI can help with is basically take your messaging, let's take a homepage or your about page or your services page, grab a couple of sections of your website, feed it into AI and say, hey, can you rewrite this section from the audience perspective, or make sure it's addressing the audience specifically rather than talking about you? Because at the end of the day, nobody really cares about what you do or your story. Yes, they do, but only if you position it in a way that's relevant to your audience. Because your audience, when they're landing on your website, they have specific questions. They have specific pain points that they want addressed. And the way to do that is through your messaging. And that means not having, or having less we, and more you and your. So use AI to help with that if you can't spot those things. But chances are, if you go visit your website right now, you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see those sections where starts with we, and this is how we work, and this is how we help. By working with us, this is what we do, things like that. So check out your website and see if you can spot those things and use AI to rewrite those things. Okay, number 8 is coming up with FAQs for a services and process section. So as you know, SEO is absolutely huge. And having an FAQ section has such an incredible impact on how you show up in search results, because not only that's where you can find, those critical SEO keywords, but it also addresses people's pain points and objections, and it showcases that you are transparent about your process or about your services or how you function and how you operate. So sometimes we're not sure what are some of the most of the times we do. You know which questions your audience and your prospective clients typically have, because you've heard those questions before. You've heard them during discovery calls. You've heard them throughout the lifespan of your project. But if you are drawing blank, if you need help to come up with some of the questions, go to AI and hear those suggestions. I've used AI multiple times to specifically come up with, what are some of the frequently asked questions based on what I do? What are some of the questions that my audience can possibly have? And go through those questions and pick the ones that really apply to your business, specifically to your business. All right. Number 9 is coming up with analogies. And maybe you've tried it, but I absolutely love that, especially because my work revolves around creative storytelling. Sometimes I need to say something in a different way to truly show, not just tell. And this is a copywriting rule that I often use: show, don't tell. To truly show something, to truly help audience understand what I'm talking about, you want to use analogies, you want to use examples. And sometimes AI is the best place to find those analogies, because they can come up, it's like I'm talking about a person. AI can come up with the best examples or the most creative examples for as far as analogies go. So you're not like talking about analogies that we always use, the ones that sound so cliche. So sometimes I even tweak my prompt to AI and say, hey, come up with an analogy, but something that's not talked about all the time, like not those analogies that we always hear, if I want to hear something different. Number 10 is content outlines. And we're talking about everything for presentations, for podcasts, for talks, for workshops, for blogs, everything. So if I have a blog topic or a newsletter topic or presentation that I need to deliver, I would go to AI and basically ask it. I would feed it enough information to describe the topic and the overview, what it is that I'm trying to deliver in a specific presentation, and I ask it to come up with an outline for me. So it's easier, because it's so much easier to start with something rather than starting from scratch. And then I dig a little bit deeper, and then I go into each point. For example, I like some of the bullet points, some of them I don't like, and I ask it to replace those, or dig a little bit deeper and ask it to elaborate on some of the points. But outlining with AI is such an easy thing. And I actually learned very recently from Jenna Gajdusek as I was interviewing her for my own podcast. And when she was interviewing me for her podcast, I learned that actually AI, and specifically ChatGPT, is actually integrated with Canva. So you can almost immediately drop that in the Canva and create your presentation deck right there. So once you outline, and then it kind of syncs it on the back end with Canva. So very cool. I haven't tried that myself yet, but I definitely will be trying that, especially because I have a presentation coming up in April in Texas. So I am definitely trying that. So you should too, for sure, if you've got like a podcast coming up, or if you want a really thorough outline for a blog post, for example. Number 11 is adding personality and making content more engaging. So I am a huge fan of personality-driven copy. I think bland, boring copy about your business just does nothing for you. I love adding personality. I love adding personal stories to web copy, to about pages. And sometimes you've got, what you want to say, but you're just not sure how to make it more, I guess, personality-ier. Actually, not my term, but AI can help with that. You just feed the prompt again into AI and say, hey, this is the story that I want to use. Can you add personality? Can you make this section more engaging? Or here's my current About Us page. And for example, you copy the messaging from your About page, and then you drop it into AI and say, this is my current page, add something else. And then you feed it a few more details. I like bubble tea. I like coffee. My family's everything. On the weekends, you can find me doing this. I love sitting down with reading a book, or taking a Bible, whatever it is. And then maybe you say at the end, I also use humor, or I'm sarcastic. Can you tweak it and add personality to this copy? So this is how I would use AI, and I've used it before to add personality to anything that I write. All right. We're getting to the end. Number 12 is, I have a feeling that you've used this one. You've definitely tried AI for this kind of thing, because I know I've talked to my friends who've done it before. Email to rewrite, or I guess tweaking email response to a difficult client or a difficult situation. I have definitely used that. If I received an email and it's a problematic client, or it's a problematic situation, and I'm not really sure how to address that, or if my initial response is very emotional, I would take a step back. I would not send it as is. I would grab it and go to AI or ChatGPT and say, hey, rewrite this email, and I don't know, be more politically correct, on less emotion, or stick to facts, or something like that. So it comes out a lot more eloquent and a lot more professional, because sometimes when, our first instinct to write an email to an emotional situation, it comes out as that, emotional. Number 13 is making something more conversational and less robotic sounding. And that's a huge one. We are interior designers and creative entrepreneurs are so good at being conversational on social media and in, networking situations. But as soon as you get to their website, all of a sudden the copy sounds like too professional, too robotic, too dry. It's like they button up all of a sudden. And I am a huge fan of making the copy a lot more conversational, because when your audience visits your website and your social media, let's say they find you first on social media, but then they decide to check out your website, it has to be consistent. It has to be, in their eyes, it has to be, I was like, okay, it's the same person, and look how much fun she is here and there. She doesn't just all of a sudden change. The tone does not change. Making words be more conversational and less robotic, definitely utilize AI for that. Get your copy, or two sets of copy, take some of the copy from your social and then some of your copy from the website, and ask AI to make it a lot more consistent and add conversational elements to your copy on the website. They say you have to write how you speak, not the other way around. So maybe that's one of the tips you'll borrow from me. Number 14 is kind of a boring one, but it is an important one. It has to do with SEO, writing meta descriptions. I'm not sure if you ever had to write your meta descriptions, or maybe when you were working on your website and you had a copywriter or your web designer did that for you. But meta descriptions are so important for SEO. It's that first or second line of copy that shows up in search results. results. And it's very easy to draft with ChatGPT. All you do is just grab your website copy from a specific page, drop it in ChatGPT, and prompt it to write a meta description for this particular page. So it shows up in Google search results. Number 15 is subject line writing. So that has to do with emails, and subject lines are everything. It should never be an afterthought. Subject lines determine whether your email will actually be read and whether it's actually going to be opened. So I often spend more time on subject line crafting than the actual email. So super important, but use AI to help you with that. And the last tip is switching from passive voice and active voice. It's not the sexiest tip, but in writing, you do want to use active voice. So you doing something rather than saying something has been done to me. So active voice is usually a lot more engaging and a lot more effective in messaging. But sometimes we can't really see that. So when you have copy on a page and you read it out loud, and usually you can spot that where, things can be a lot more clearer and more active or said in an active voice. So use AI to help you spot that and rewrite that. So these are my tips. I've shared with you 16 tips in the ways I use ChatGPT specifically. And you can do that too for your marketing, for your business, to help make things a lot easier for you. The one thing that I do want to say on this topic is that I would never use copy written by AI as is for anything. Never for website copy, never for social media posts. Because it's implied that you absolutely need to iterate. You absolutely need to feed something from you. You need your personality in there. You need your brand voice there. So it's critical to never take things that are created by ChatGPT or other AI tools as is. It does need work. It does need rewriting. It does need iterating and making it sound like it came from you. So that's all I'll leave you with. This was supposed to be a short one, but I think it came out to about half an hour. I really hope you found it useful and interesting. And I would love to hear from you which tip was your favorite one. So if you want to share that with me, go to my Instagram. I'm at masha.copywriter, and share with me which tip was your favorite one. And I'll see you next week. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Marketing for Designers. This is Masha Cohen signing off. See you next week.